The Garden Way lore book reveals a crazy story, and it might be one of my favorite lore books. An Eliksni Slayer-Baron and a newbie Eliksni partnered together under the direction of Chelchis Kell of Stone to slay a darkness creature found on an Eliksni farm. An ancient object is uncovered after slaying the creature that foreshadows the impending doom of the Eliksni civilization from an almighty powerful voice in the darkness. Welcome Guardians, let's dive into this story. We first begin this tale on the Eliksni homeworld of Rees. The story is told from the perspective of an Eliksni named Irha. Irha ventures by watercraft to the Eliksni city of Rees Athlodri, to a nearby place called the Palace of Judgment. This seems to be tied to the House of Judgment. Upon arriving, they are greeted by a member of House of Judgment who guides them through the halls, walking by the banners of the many houses as they enter the corridors and eventually to a reception room. It is here where Irha meets Chelchis Kell of Stone and a Slayer-Baron named Chelchis. There were two figures waiting for us in the room. The first was dressed in the mantle of the city peacekeepers and the ornamented headdress of the House of Stone. The second figure was clad in a void black cloak and a pytha hide crest. The absence of a house symbol marked her as a baron of the Order of Slayers. The Slayer-Barons had tamed Rees back when it grew wild and disordered in the first century of the Great Machine's ether floor. First Rees, and then the moons beyond our sky, which were often hostile to us. Within the hatchling schools, the Minders showed us the shadow stories of cunning hunters, adepts of the Great Machine working in tandem to bring down the biggest monsters of their age. In this meeting, Chelchis the Slayer-Baron is not thrilled of being paired with Irha. She says, "Wait, you're partnering me with this hatchling?" Irha feels ashamed, not part of any house, and now hears these words of shame in front of a Kell like Chelchis. The judgment official rubbed his hands together in agitation. "It will be quick work, Baron. Travel to the farm of Haxis and dispatch the animal that troubles him. If you require reinforcements, send for the support of a house." Chelchis grunted and turned away. I began to bow and felt her claws latch onto my arm like a star steel cuff, pulling me from the room. "Be careful, Slayer-Baron." The small chimes on Chelchis' headdress rang softly as she turned her head. So the Slayer-Baron and Irha were tasked with going to another Eliksni's farm to hunt a creature that has been causing some trouble. On a watercraft, Irha and Chelchis set off for their adventure. Chelchis pilots the vessel while Irha mixes flasks in the back, crafting different tonics. We followed the river as it skirted the sprawling residential districts, then turned and cut toward the listing sun. I watched the crowds thin as canal-side markets gave way to orderly arrays of residential towers and aerial traffic, then to radiating lines of transport arterials, waterways, and roads connecting each of Rees' great cities to one another in a shimmering network. We passed lines of pilgrims marking their way to the site where the Great Machine first came to Rees, the hill at the heart of Rees Athlodri. I saw high priests of the House of Dancers, devoted clerics who gorge themselves past satiation on ether until they tower above their peers, then amputate their lower arms in ritual supplication to the Great Machine. The farms of House Rain were among the most splendid on all of Rees, and the quadrant assigned to Baron Haxis was no exception. There were great swaths of forest, carefully hemmed and controlled, arranged nearly around crop fields. It could not have been done without the machines. Baron Haxis had a fleet of them, small autonomous drones that moved about, planting, harvesting, and measuring ether uptake. The sound of their toil was that of the wind across grassland, 1,000 small tasks undertaken without rest or complaint. Chelchis was dressed in the rich hues of rain. He was of the height of Chelchis, if slighter in build and stiff in his bearing. I bowed low and formally, feeling the weight of my houseless status. Chelchis reached out and lifted me bodily upright by the carapace with no more difficulty than she might have plucked a flowering plant. "I sent for slayers," Chelchis said. He looked at me, and I felt my shell itch. Chelchis spread her hands untroubled. "So we've come. The House of Judgment mentioned an animal." "No, I told them many times this is not an animal," Chelchis said. At his sides, his claws clenched into fists, one after the other. "It's an old evil." I looked up at Chelchis but found no sign of her thoughts. Her mandibles clicked quietly. "You've seen it?" Chelchis sagged then, as if already weary of conversation. "It attacked my people. I tried to recover the bodies, and then the House of Judgment took its time." "Do you know where it is now?" "No. Nothing can hide in this farm without the sensors tracking it. The forest tracks are just as well tended, but there is a garden way between. We were letting that grow, rewild for a few cycles." "We'll track it down," Chelchis said. "Tell me where the bodies are." I felt relieved to hear her speak of us as we, but the feeling didn't last long. Even as he brought up the displays and maps to guide Chelchis, Chelchis kept staring in my direction, and I realized he did not expect me to survive. So the two then take a tonic that enhances their ability to see light and ether, and eventually find a body of one of Chelchis' guards. "And now the body," Chelchis said. It was Eliksni, or had been. The mangled form at our feet had been twisted into a tangle of limbs. If not for the torn mantle attached to it, I am not sure I would have known the body to belong to one of Chelchis' guards. The two inspect the body of the guard and with their tonic enhancements notice a few things. Local larvae seem to avoid the corpse for some reason. And when the body is touched, it emanates an unnatural anger and remorse. So something evil and dark was at work here, and it was all around them, waiting to attack. In the war card, the creature does attack, described as a dark, shadowy entity. The creature ripped, clawed, and fell unhindered to the earth. The shape of it changed. I saw it rise upon 6 heavy limbs, its misshapen head turned toward me. Chelchis battles the dark creature with blades and arc energy as she cries for Irha to find a Stone Eater potion from the tonics. After they both struggle for a bit in their different operations, Irha finds it and throws it at the creature, striking it in the leg. The tonic begins to chew through the creature's flesh, but not before the dark entity could latch on to Chelchis multiple times, clenching her in its jaws. She thrust the flask deep into the creature's throat. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the creature shuddered, and I saw the shell of it, the bones lit from within by pale fire. Its jaws crashed shut around Chelchis, once, then parted to scream. I saw the Baron haul at the blade, heard more terrible, wet screaming as the fire caught and spread. The beast writhed and fell. Chelchis fell with it. Chelchis was then badly injured, but using a foul-smelling tonic as is described and her arc blade, she was able to patch some of her wounds with a scream. Together, we shuffled toward the burning ruin of Chelchis' creature. It looked ordinary after the fire had worked through it. It seemed like it might have been a river catcher, one of several common predators that fed along the waterways. But we had both seen it cloaked in boiling shadow, wielding a power that could douse the light of the great machine, and no river catcher ever grew so large. Amid the pile of bones, I caught the shine of something metallic, a gleaming sphere. I reached for it, and Chelchis pulled me back. "Don't touch it." With the stump of her arm, she gestured toward the pack I had abandoned nearby. "Bring that here." I watched as she tipped a canister of powder over the sphere. The effects of the tonic were fading now, but I could still see the motes as they drew together. A cluster of light, like a frenzied swarm of fish, gathering closer and closer together over the sphere until I had to cover my eyes. When I looked again, the sphere was gone. Back at Haxus's home, he tells a scary backstory. This sphere that they found from the creature's body, Haxus found it long ago. In his youth, he discovered an ancient fortress in a ship like a blade. It contained a sphere that gave him visions of destruction and ruin. The sphere showed him a voice he could not escape. "It showed me everything. The storm at the end of things, Chelchis. The uselessness of it all. The ruin of it." Haxus hung his head. "I still hear its voice, even after I cast the sphere away, even now, after you." This voice ends up overtaking Haxus and he goes kind of insane, forcing Chelchis to kill him. But this sphere is clearly related to the darkness, same for that ship he found. It does sound very similar to the artifact we recovered from the lunar pyramid that has ties to the Witness. So the Witness might have been the same voice plaguing Haxus through the years back on Rhys, giving him visions of an impending doom or whirlwind yet to come.
Lies, man.
They are not our salvation. They're our destruction. This has been a manipulation from the very start. They know we're here. They know what we've found. The artifact you recovered may be tainted. After all, they wanted us to have it. But a treasure such as this is far too valuable to destroy. I must stay and study it with the utmost care. Whatever I discover, you will be the first to know.
The efforts of the Guardians within the Black Garden seem to have unlocked the unknown artifact. It now provides communications from something sinister. Eris warns us not to bow to it, but believes the artifact too valuable to dispose of. Whispers flow from the unknown artifact, creating sinister messages picked up by Eris Morn. Someone or something is attempting to speak to us. What first appeared as nonsense and trickery has begun to reveal itself. Certainly, we are being manipulated through these interactions, though there is an honesty here, a spark of truth that speaks louder than I sought to allow. I will give it some credence, but please, do not let my curiosity infect your truths. So Shadowkeep on the moon when we found this artifact was really a big pillar or moment. This was when the Witness sort of started to begin recruiting the Guardian and other forces, starting to speak to us here in Seoul. The same thing appears to have happened on Rhys to this specific Eliksni character and maybe others, who knows. It does make me wonder though, was this found on Rhys itself? Was there a pyramid ship that crash landed here or some type of darkness installation, or was this found on some other planet and brought back here? Darkness was on Rhys at one point though before their whirlwind and seemed to infect certain creatures like this river monster. In the end, Irha and Chelchis venture back by watercraft to the palace. On the journey, Chelchis opens up a bit, tells a story about her son, and says that Irha did well, despite wanting nothing to do with their pairing in the beginning. At the palace, Chelchis greets the two as they depart the boat. Chelchis hobbles inside to report their findings, and Irha and Chelchis share a nice conversation and moments before the card ends. I knew Baron Chelchis was still in pain because she did not shrug off Chelchis' assistance in stepping out of the watercraft. Chelchis reached out to take the shank from my hands. "I will speak to House Judgment and report our findings." She hesitated. "Chelchis Kell can keep an eye out for you until I return." We both watched Baron Chelchis pull her cloak tightly around herself and lump away toward the palace doors. Chelchis stared at me, and I worried she would ask me for an explanation. But instead, Chelchis grunted as if something had been decided and leaned against a nearby pillar. I felt the weight of the past couple of days settle onto me. I was tired, but my body was not convinced it was safe to rest. I felt alert and exhausted all at once. I hugged my arms to myself and waited. Sometime into the silence, Chelchis began to sing quietly. It was not a tune I recognized, but beautiful in its lilting sweetness. I thought of voices raised together in song in shared rooms. I thought of long nights playing find sneak with friends long before any of us had to worry about our purpose. In my chest, I felt a hollow ache like grief. "What is it?" Chelchis asked. I startled and looked up at her. What could I possibly say to a Kell that wouldn't just be wasting her time? "Oh, no, it's just, your song is sad." Had she taken offense, she could have pulled my arms from their sockets. Instead, Chelchis touched my shoulder gently and drew me close. "Not sad," Chelchis said. "A song for the star soldiers headed out into the dark between worlds. And wherever we walk, there is light, little brother." So there we have some great depictions of Rhys, forces of darkness, and the backstory of the Slayer-Barons. We also get confirmation that Chelchis was female, which is actually pretty cool. We've known this character for a long time in the lore, but we've never known this fact. Now, of course, the lines I read was not the entire lore book. I sort of summarized it to put it into a story for you. But if you'd like to see some more Destiny lore and mysteries just like this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.